It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back with Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I represent 1.0 decklist of the commander in front of us on my quest out brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. The deck list is going to be down in the description for you below. So I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Consider checking out the links in the description. I'd appreciate it. The Discord is live. Mikey and I are in there chatting, and I'd appreciate if you would want to come and chat with us. We covered Sahelian earlier in the week for Precon Week. It's only right that we finally get around to Temmet, Naktamun's Will. And Esper's Zombies Commander, 4/4 Vigilance and Menace says whenever you attack, we're going to draw a card and then pitch a card. Whenever you draw a card, zombies you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. I think Temmet's a really fun idea for Commander, and I think it makes for a really fun Zombies deck because we kind of get to care about something we really haven't cared about before. We have Verena, and Verena we'll talk about tomorrow. She's our last commander for the week, and we're going to take this same Esper Zombies idea and look at her brew of it. But I think the thing I like about Temmet so much is that drawing cards is generally so underrated in the sense that it's mainly used to dig through your deck, get more things, get more ideas. But I like here that it's the thing that makes your zombies better. You know, I think Wilheld is so popular as a zombie commander because it enables combos and it gets it going. What I like about Temmet is it kind of just turns your zombies into a strong type of powerhouse in the sense that if you have enough zombie tokens and you draw enough cards in one turn, I mean, you can turn 2/2s into 9/9s, making a brutal combat and a color combination you wouldn't think that would come from. And what I think is also interesting about Temmet is that you don't have to play every single Travels Matter enchantment that gives our zombies +1/+1 because we're going to draw to do it. And I think that's what's really interesting is that it values drawing, something that I think Esper wants to do anyway because you don't have the land ramp. You need the draw to get into artifacts and lands to do that. So of course we're going to talk about zombies. That's our type of choice and we're going to care about it. And then we'll talk about how do we pay off drawing and how do we pay off discarding. Remember that Temmet automatically is going to discard on his ability, so it's going to happen. But most of our explosive draw spells in these colors are going to force you to discard and then draw, or pitch your whole hand and then draw. And so we're going to have discard as well be a part of it. It's just not as important as Verena that we're going to talk about tomorrow. So if you're interested in more of the discard side of this idea, we're going to talk about Verena tomorrow, but today we're going to talk about Temmet. So let's get into our zombies. Zombies here are going to be all across the board. Lots of great reprints from the Precon. We're adding some extra spice here. Corpse Knight's going to have everybody lose one whenever another zombie comes into our control. Crypt Breaker can allow us to pitch a card to make a zombie. And we can tap 3 untapped zombies to draw a card. Diagraph Captain's going to help us by buffing our other zombies. And then whenever another zombie dies, we can have somebody lose a life. Forgotten Creation is a really fun one-card combo with Temmet. Or one-card piece alongside Temmet. Beginning our upkeep, we could pitch our entire hand. If we do, we draw that many cards. This is an underrated ability in a lot of ways because I think even at minimum 3 or 4 cards in your hand can make a huge difference in a combat that turn, right? Depending on how many of those 2/2 zombies you have laying around. Not only that, but it then pays off all of our discard and draw abilities. Headless Rider, whenever it or another non-token zombie dies, we get a zombie token. Hordewing Scab's going to put all of our other zombies in the air whenever they deal damage. Whenever a zombie deals damage to one or more of your opponents, you can draw cards equal to the number of opponents dealt damage this way. So you're only going to get that once. Sorry. No matter how many opponents your zombies hit, it just goes off once, allowing you to draw that many and pitch that many. Again, taking care of these draw and discard matters. The only difference with the Scab versus the Creation is happening before combat, get to take care of that buff advantage, whereas Scab is happening after to set up our next turn. Lord of the Accursed gives a buff and potentially a chance at Menace. Midnight Reaper says whenever one of our non-token creatures dies, we get to have a damage dealt to us and draw a card, churn through our deck for better things. Noxious Ghoul, whenever it or another zombie comes in, we're given -1/-1 to all non-zombies, hopefully starting to soften up that board for us. Prophet of the Scarab, another new card that works so well in the deck. When it comes in, we're going to draw cards equal to the number of zombies we control or the number of zombie cards in our graveyard, whichever is greater, leading to another nice pseudo-alpha strike turn where hopefully we can draw a couple cards. The Scarab God's going to let us drain our opponents and scry X at the start of the turn, where X is the number of zombies we control, potentially allowing us to make those draw spells really valuable, right? Knowing what's coming up. and then can make zombies exiling things from any graveyard. Undead Augur, very similar to Midnight Reaper. Whenever another zombie we control dies, draw a card and lose a life. We are playing Verena. Whenever we attack with one more zombies, we draw that many and discard that many and gain that much life. This is a huge support effect here, especially with how much Temmet is growing our board. But we're giving up a little bit of that discard matters that you're going to see in the Verena deck tomorrow. Wayward Servant says that everybody's going to lose when we game whenever another zombie comes in. And then, of course, we got to play Wilhilt. Wilhilt's a great zombie in its own right, allowing us to make some tokens and sack some zombies to draw cards. Although we're not playing into the combos you'd normally see out of a Wilhilt deck, I think he fits great as a support piece here. We're playing Zahur from the main set. Comes in and starts our engines. We could sack another creature to Surveil 1, which isn't a bad way to get a creature to die if we need it to, and get some more value. And then whenever we hit max speed, which isn't going to be very hard considering how much we're going to be buffing our zombies up, we can make a tapped zombie token whenever another non-token creature dies. Zombie Master gives all of our zombies Swamp Walk and the ability to regenerate themselves, which is a killer ability. Love seeing the Zombie Master reprint because it needed one. And then Wand of Orcus is just going to make us more zombies when the creature that it's equipped to actually deals damage. And this is a huge deal because I think these zombies are the big thing that's going to make a difference between Temmet being a nice mid-range deck that does its job and hits you when you're going to see it coming, and a huge go-wide typo deck that's going to start really punishing your opponents if they can't find a way to wipe all your zombies off the board. Of course, we got to play Neko Duality and Rooftop Storm, pretty much just classic zombie enchantments at this point. Neko Duality doubling up your non-token zombies that come in, Rooftop Storm letting you pay them for free, and then on Wings of Gold feels great here, putting them all in the air and making that what could be that last bastion threat that our opponents have to deal with of our zombies becoming real threats to them if they don't have any flying blockers. I think getting them in the air could be the thing that would make your Alpha Strike a lot easier to function, especially if no one else has any flying attackers. You don't need as much power in the air, but the truth is this is also just a very good card no matter what, buffing all of our zombies, making them better on both the attack and the block, right? Being allowing to block other flying decks as well, which could be a real threat to us. But I think where the deck really shines and where we're going to see a lot of our power spiking is drawing cards. Obviously, right? Temmet grows our board when we draw cards, but I think it's about how we're drawing cards that becomes the difference. We want, ideally, before or during combat draw, before damage, to become the real thing. And there was a card immediately that came to my mind, and that was Kindred Discovery. It comes in, you choose a type, and whenever a creature that chosen type comes in or attacks, you draw a card. What this basically means is every zombie that's declaring an attack is going to draw you a card. Automatic Temmet triggers. Same thing with something like Keep Watch, where you draw a card for each attacking creature you control. Again, a huge potential Alpha Strike swing for just a couple mana. And I think that's where this deck gains so much of its power. Same thing with something like Distant Melody. We do this in our main before combat, say zombie, draw a card for each zombie we control, and now we're getting that much of a buff, right, to all of our zombies and going in for that huge attack. But it's not just that. We get Knowledge is Power, a second copy of Temmet's effect, and actually is going to be really helpful in case Temmet ever gets dropped off the battlefield, because then it's the Knowledge of Power in some decks is actually to be harder to remove than Temmet will, and so then we can make sure we keep that effect around. Phyrexian Arena and cards like it can draw us an extra card in our upkeep, turning the +1/+1 from a normal draw step into a +2/+2. And we have things like Teferi's Aegis Insight, drawing us 2 cards instead of 1. Except the first one we draw, doubling up the amount of draw, doubling up the buff. Like you could start to see where when you're enabling how many cards you're drawing, how much it's going to change the course of a game. I think we still care about discard matters, but the difference is we're not trying to buy into it like we are with Verena tomorrow. I keep stressing that because I think Temmet is going to be very different than Verena on Temmet's caring about the card draw side, Verena's caring about the discard side, and I think that makes them mutually exclusive, but also they're going to share a lot of the same pieces. Of course, Hashiton came as our alternate commander, and it's a great card. Whenever we pitch a creature, we can pay 2 and a blue if we get a copy of it. It's a great effect, and I think it helps Temmet, but it's not as useful in our deck as I think as it is in Verena, where Verena really wants it because she wants to be discarding. Lazotep Channeler says whenever we discard a card, we can pay 1. If we do, we amass zombies too. Fun thing to note with Channeler, is that if we discard multiple cards at the same time, we can trigger it multiple times, amassing zombie a couple times. And then Crypt Caller Chariot, whenever we discard one of our cards, we make that many 2/2 zombies. Again, a great way to just make some zombies on future turns, right, to be threats to our opponent. I didn't have it on our big 3 things at the moment, because I think you expect any deck that cares about fading its graveyard like zombies do are going to have recursion. And there's a lot of ways we can look at this. You have things like Geese and Geralf, which can allow you to play zombies back out of your graveyard. You have Victimize and Reanimate spells like it that let you just take creatures back out of your graveyard. And then we have the new Curse Claws wrappings, which is pretty cool, buffing all of our zombies, and we can give a zombie Embalm, which is an interesting effect, allowing them to come back out of our graveyard as a token. But I think the point is that it's not just about drawing and discarding. It's also about trying to get our creatures back if we need to. And we're in black, so we have so many great ways to do that, as all of our Dimir Zombies decks friends are able to use them. We can also use them here. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. This is our version 1.0 shot at Temmet with our bigger budget here than that pre-con upgrade earlier in the week. And the truth is, I think in testing, first I'm looking to make sure the proof of concept's there. Do I have enough draw to really make it count for my opponents? And second is going to be, do I need to get more zombies onto the battlefield? I expect the big zombie apocalypse type spells that make a ton of zombies are going to be really popular in this deck. And they should be. I mean, I think the more tokens you have, the harder this deck becomes to deal with and block effectively. But I want to try to find cheekier ways to do it, or more over time's way to do it, than just playing a from under the floorboards, right? We have things like Dread Summons, which can mill everybody out and make some zombies. We have Endless Ranks of the Dead to make them every turn. I think there's more options there. I'm not sold that zombie tokens are our game plan every time, but I think they're a very helpful thing. We also have things that can add more draw, like Black Market Connections, drawing us an extra card if we want to every main phase. I think there's other ways to look at that, but I think the truth is I'm going into testing with, am I consistently putting enough zombies on the battlefield? And if I'm not, how do I do it more effectively than just from under the floorboards zombie apocalypse? Are there other ways we can do it? But getting to our playtest, that's what we love to do on the channel, so that's what we're going to do. Remember, the goal of the playtest is not to run what the perfect hand is for the deck. It's not to achieve Magical Christmas Land. It's to look at the deck, how do we set it up, what do we value, seeing our cards working together so we understand when we get into a game. Here we're keeping a 4-lander with the Eternal Skylord, Frantic Search for some draw, and Distant Melodies for some draws. We actually have the draw there. We're going to start decently well with some draw in our hand. We just need to work our boards of zombies up to it so we can take advantage of it. We have all of our colors, which is really nice. We see a Cursed Dune Yard, the new basically Swarm Yard, but just for some of the desert tribes, so it's cool to see that there. Here on turn 3, I think we just play the Lord of the Accursed. Again, we're trying to work our way up to Temmet, work our way up to that value. Here for 4, I mean, we could play the Wrappings, I guess. I mean, we're really kind of working our way up. We're trying to just get our pieces down. I guess the Lord of the Accursed is a 3/4 now, but I think we're kind of just waiting. We really wish we could have had a Mana Rock or something like this on that one, but that's okay. Here we go, turn 5, we got Temmet down. And now next turn, we can really start taking advantage of these abilities. Now, I could attack with Lord of the Accursed this turn, draw a card, pitch a card, and have instead of having a 3/4 Lord of the Accursed, I could have a 4/5 Lord of the Accursed, right? If I want to this turn. But the truth is I have a ton of draw sitting in my hand. Distant Melody, Frantic Search, Raid the Bones. I'm not really worried about the incremental card draw here this turn. I think I'm more worried about getting set up. So we're 1 on our count this turn, right? Because we drew 1. Distant Melody doesn't seem like a very good choice this turn because we only have 2 zombies. I like the idea of the Skylord here because it's going to come in and get that zombie army going. And now we've got 4 zombies, a lot better for that, right? A lot better for that Distant Melody next turn. So that was 5, just down to 1 mana left. Again, I don't mind taking the attacks here with Temmet now because, we've drawn at least 1 card this turn. And in the future, all of our tokens are flying. And I don't mind pitching the Contaminated Landscape. So we'll do that and pitch it. And we got a land to replace it, which is absolutely A-okay. But the point is now decent attacker here. These 2 came in this turn, so there's nothing they can do. And now on this turn, now's where we can potentially have some fun. The only problem, right, is that we're missing the numbers to really make this brutal for our opponents, but we know this zombie's in the air at least. My thought would be starting with something like Read the Bones, just see if we can get ourselves into anything else that changes this turn for me to not just, Distant Melody or Frantic Surge. So we're going to scry 2, We're going to scry 2, lose 2, and draw 2. Don't mind the swamp, but I love the idea of that Forgotten Creation, right? Especially if we're going to Distant Melody this turn, that leads us into, right, more card draw next turn if we want it. So I think I'm going to put the swamp on bottom, draw the creation, and we draw Priest of the Crossing. At the beginning of each end step, put X counters on each creature you control, where X is the number of creatures that died this turn. So it's either Melody or Forgotten Creation here to me, because both of them are going to lead us to the next step of our end. We draw 3 cards this turn, so that's +3/+3 from Temmet. I kind of like the idea of just setting up something like the creation for next turn. The only problem is I don't really want to pitch my Distant Melody if I don't have to, right? So you could also argue the priest. The only thing I like about the priest is at least it's in the air, right? Which could be more beneficial for our next turn. So maybe we do something like that. Go to attacks, attack. We see Zahur, which isn't bad. Again, still got the draw. I don't really want to bin Zahur, but I guess we just bin Frantic Surge. Now that was what? 1, 2, 3, 4 draws this turn. So they're up +4/+4. Again, brutal attacker in the air, nice few attackers here. And if we come back to our turn, I think we're in great shape to just Distant Melody and see where it gets us, right? On just getting value from our attacks. Now, if anybody does kill or block a creature and kill it, right, Priest is going to, get some counters out. But I think the truth here is, I came into the Soul Ring there for more. But I think I would just Distant Melody. I have 5 zombies, so we'll draw 5. That's great, because now we're +6/+6, right? The first one for the turn. And my 5 from Distant Melody. And now we see something like Lazatet Plating, which can potentially protect our things a little bit. We get Zola Sure, allowing us to cast back out the graveyard. We see a Brainstorm to draw a couple more cards. But now, I've got 5 mana left because of the Soul Ring. Or 4 mana left because of the Soul Ring, because I tapped 1 to play the Soul Ring. But now +5/+5, I got multiple flyers. I've got a Menacer. Now we just attack again. I got to try to put the ring into our opponents. We've got removal to hold up. We got the plating to hold up. And if somebody wipes the board, right, then we just, get Temmet back out. We can get Zola Sure out, right, to keep, cast our zombies back out of our graveyard. I like the board state. It's not the best, but I think it's pretty good still nonetheless, and we can move into our next one. He went 3-land with Commander Sphere, Plague Belcher for some damage on our zombies dying, Scarab God, and then that Forgotten Creation, so we do get to see it this time. Here, I'll play the Fetid Pools because it's going to come in tap no matter what. Turn 2, probably nothing of relevance there to do. Turn 3, we see Hashton. Would have been nice to, to play it last turn, but that's a-okay. I think I'll just get the Commander Sphere down this turn. Turn 4, we see Geese and Geralf, a good way to fill up our graveyard and be able to cast things back out. I'm trying to think of what makes the most sense effectively to play this turn. I mean, if I go Plague Belcher plus Hashton, that gives me 2 creatures out. If I go Geese and Geralf, I can load my graveyard up a little bit, potentially extend my hand with its ability. I could just straight go Temmet if I want to do that. I think there's a lot of options here. Geese and Geralf sounds fun, try to get a key zombie into the graveyard, but I think we'll just try to put Temmet down, since Temmet can do a lot of things attacking, right, with his ability. Now it's 6 mana. I like the idea of the Scarab God start seeing what's coming, but we could play something like Geese and Geralf and Hashton, or Hashton and, Forgotten Creation. The nice thing if I play Geese and Geralf is I could dump, zombies into my graveyard, right, because they're able to be casted back. So I kind of like the idea of the Geese and Geralf. We see Verena, Kindred Discovery, Zahur, and Arcane Signet. The Kindred Discovery kind of hurts because I don't have any good way to get it back at the moment. But I think I'd just do that plus Hashton. Attack with the Temmet this turn. And again, because I can play something from my graveyard, it's safe for me to pitch something like Plague Belcher, right? Because we know we can get it back. If I had the mana, I could, use Hashton's ability, but I don't. And that's a-okay. I mean, Temmet's still, a 6/6 this turn? Not a bad attack for our opponents to deal with. Coming into turn 6, we see the Headless Rider. So now I've got 7 mana. I can make it 6 with the Talisman and make it just a little bit better next turn. Remember, I can play 1 zombie out of my graveyard every turn. We see Verena, which could be a nice attack trigger, right, to pair with Temmet. But we just need to build our board up before we get there. Right now, I could Creation plus Rider. I could also do... My thought here is Talisman plus Scarab God to get that Scry and Drain going. Attack with Temmet. I mean, Giesen-Gerolf and Hashton could attack too. I think Giesen-Gerolf's probably the only one I feel safe attacking with, even though they won't get the buff, right, from Temmet. The Rooftop Storm helps a ton, right, with casting future things for free. I think we'll bin the Rider, because, again, we can play it out of the graveyard with Giesen-Gerolf and just, take our attacks this turn. Coming into turn 7, I think we played the Rooftop Storm, right? Now we could play stuff for free. Back on my graveyard, I like the idea of, sorry, we would have got to Scry 2, so we would have seen the next card. I think I'm willing to bottom that. We can play out of the graveyard. I like the Headless Rider to protect us from a board wipe, because I'm sure one would inevitably be coming. I like Verena, so I think I'm playing the Headless Rider, and then I think I'm playing Forgotten Creation out of my hand. I guess you could also conversely play Zola, sure, for the ability to play multiple zombies out of our graveyard next turn. Move to attack, draw, pitch the Ash Barrens. I mean, we definitely don't need that at this point. But now Temmet's giving +2/+2 to the zombies. I can take some attacks. My thought here is set up next turn here, where I can cast Verena out of my graveyard. I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attacking creatures this turn. Again, drawing 5, because it's only the zombies that draw me. But the point is, now you have a 5-point draw swing this turn with Verena plus the Temmet, and now we can hopefully hit our opponents hard on that one. Let's get into the last one. Keeping a 4-lander with the Talisman, Zombie Master, and the Creation again. It's just all about Forgotten Creation today, I guess. I don't know that I planned that, but that's okay. We'll keep the Verge, put the Verge down turn 1. I guess conversely, I could have put the Glacial Fortress down turn 1, right? Since I'm not doing anything with it, we don't have any way to have it come in untapped. I guess that would make more sense. Turn 2, go into the Talisman. We see Wilhelt there as our draw for turn. Ooh, we get to see this one. I didn't do this one in the PowerPoint, but I like the idea of this one. Unfilled Desire is an old card. Pay a life and a mana to draw a card and pitch a card. Again, just a way to turn your mana into a card draw. At 4, I love the idea of Wilhelt here, although he kind of sits out there wide open. I think it's a good thing to get started, right? So we could start drawing, right, on future turns, or getting more value on future turns. Turn 5, it's just Temmet. Prep up for the next turn. I guess there's also the world where we Crypt Breaker plus like Zombie Master this turn instead. And then set up Temmet, because Temmet doesn't need to attack, right? I guess now that I think about it, it makes more sense to do that, right? Because Temmet doesn't need to attack. It doesn't need to attack for you to get the buff. So I feel like it makes more sense to set up this turn. Now we Temmet this turn. I guess we didn't draw, the Temmet wasn't out to see the draw. But we can at least draw for attacking, right? Because Temmet doesn't need to do that. So you could still attack, draw, Dawn's Truce for some protection. Vizier's kind of fun. It could come in as a copy of something like Crypt Breaker if we wanted to. I don't know. I like all of them. I guess we'll pick the Vizier. It's tough. But now you got +1/+1 here. Get your attacks in. Now, we could sack something here to draw off the Cleaver at the end of turn, but I don't know that I want to. I think we want to just keep getting things on board. The thing I kind of like about the Unfilled Desire is you draw first and then discard, so that that way you can keep some cards safe in your hand. Remember, we can tap, untap. We could have tapped, untapped zombies to draw there on our opponent's turn, right, with the Crypt Breaker, which is always something good to keep in the back of your mind. 7, I just think we get the Creation down and just attack again. Draw, we see a Swords of Plowshares. I guess I'll just pitch the Exotic Orchard. Again, none of our big grandiose, draws outlets this time, but I still think we have a fair board. If at the start of our next turn we don't like this hand, pitch the hand, right? draw 3 more, and then maybe that's the best thing for next turn. It would buff the board a little bit and do that. But I mean, I like the removal. I like the Dawnsters. I remember if we don't attack, Cryptbreaker could draw us an extra card on our opponent's turns, and maybe that changes our mind. So I think these interactions like here and here are the things that are going to make or break the deck sequencing wise on how well it does. But I'd love to know what you think of Temmet down in the comments section below. The deck was a ton of fun to brew. I think it's a really fun way to look at zombies, and I'm excited to see what more people do with it. But other than that, I will catch you all in the next one. I'd love to talk with you down in the comments.